Firstly, I want to apologize for the sound quality of my voice. As many of you know, I recently suffered a severe, unfortunate event, and at present time, I am en route to the burn center in Mobile, Alabama. The sounds that you hear are the sounds of wind and vehicles whizzing by me on the interstate. I'm hoping that you will forgive this imperfection and inconsistency in sound quality. However, when the topic for the episode comes to me, I must record it immediately while the concept and thoughts are fresh in my mind. So, before we begin, a brief plain grounding. Long before clinical names arrived, before labels like borderline personality disorder, bipolar 1,
the speed limit is 70
bipolar
miles
2,
per hour.
or the older term manic depressive, people noticed a single familiar pattern and called it fickle. Fickle was the weathervane. Moods and promises turning, affection arriving and leaving, choices that seem to shift on a whim. It named the experience first. An everyday observation, long before diagnostic maps were drawn. Now, those clinical terms are not synonyms of fickle. They are medical descriptions.
The speed limit is 70 miles per hour.
That point to different patterns, causes, durations, and treatments. So I'm going to try to give you a brief explanation, as concise as possible. Well, more of a differentiation than explanation. Sensory. I'll try to keep it slightly metaphorical if I can. However, always rooted in practical clarity. So, let's start with fickle. A folk observation. What people tell me it feels like is sudden shifts in behavior or commitment. Unpredictable warmth or distance.
The speed limit is 70 miles per hour.
A pattern you notice in relationships. A weathervane changes with gusts, useful to describe the wind, isn't it? But not an explanation of the atmospheric system. Borderline personality disorder, BPD. Some people say it feels like intense fears of abandonment, rapidly shifting self-image and relationships, impulsivity, deep emotional reactivity, patterns that persist across context and time. A shoreline where tides run high and low quickly. Relationships can feel like cliffs and sudden waves. Now, the key difference in BPD from Fickle is that BPD involves enduring patterns of thinking, feeling, and relating, not just occasional unpredictable acts, and often includes strong fear of being left or invalidated. And the treatment focuses on long-term psychotherapy, like dialectical behavior therapy. And bipolar 1 disorder. What people say it feels like is distinct episodes of mania, very elevated mood, increased energy, grandiosity, risky behavior, often alternating with depressive episodes. Mania can be severe enough to require hospitalization. Long seasons of high plateau, manic summer, and deep winter depression, each with relatively clear onset and duration. However, the key difference in bipolar 1 and Fickle is that the shifts are episodic, often dramatic, and linked to biological
The speed limit is 70
mood
miles per
episodes,
hour.
rather than primarily interpersonal reactivity. Treatment emphasizes mood stabilizers and psychiatric care. But then there's bipolar 2 disorder also. And what clients have said that it feels like is recurrent depressive episodes with
The speed limit is 70 miles per
hypomanic
hour.
periods, elevated mood and energy, less severe than full mania, but noticeable and distinct. Bright, brisk springs between heavy winters, lighter peaks, but
The speed limit is
significant
70
troughs.
miles per hour.
And the key difference from Fickle is that the hypomania is a defined episode with lasting behavioral change. The pattern, a cyclical and diagnosable, not merely inconsistent behavior in relationships. Let me say that once again. Hypomania is a defined episode with lasting behavioral change. The pattern is cyclical and diagnosable, not merely inconsistent behavior in relationships.
The speed limit is 70 miles per hour.
And then we have manic depressive, older term. Clients said it feels like they historically used to describe what we now call bipolar disorder. Now the language is older, but points to the same alternating mood episodes. Like an old map's label for the mountain range, we now chart differently. Useful historically, less precise now. And a few practical clarifying points I'd like to make for those of you in the listening audience who first met Fickle in your daily lives. Time and pattern matter. Time and pattern matter. Occasional inconsistency is not the same as a recurrent, predictable episode or an enduring relational pattern. Cause matters. Mood disorders often have a biological rhythm and treatment path. Personality pattern diagnosis emphasizes long-standing relational styles and psychotherapy. Impact matters. All these patterns can hurt relationships. The right response, empathy, boundaries, treatment, depends on understanding which pattern is present. Fickle is the vane you first notice on the roof. Clinical names are the weather map beneath it. They explain winds, storms, and seasons so you can choose shelter. Plant the right trees or call in professional help when the storm is beyond a single umbrella. With all that being said, good evening. Let's sit for a moment with one small, dramatic little creature of a word. Fickle. The old tongues called it fical, slippery, treacherous, a bit like a fox wearing a raincoat. Today, it shows up as capricious, mercurial, flighty, changeable. The words that sound like they could be names in a bad soap opera, to be quite honest. Take in a slow, deep breath in. Breathe in. Breathe out. Picture a weathervane on a roof somewhere between Carbondale and Rifle, the foothills, perhaps of Boulder, or even through the wide streets in Aurora, or the even busier streets in Gig Harbor. A vein with aristocratic tendencies. It'll bow to a breeze from the east, flirt with a gust from the west, and then, without apology, face north because it remembers a song. Useful for sailors, not so much for anyone trying to hang curtains. Fickle is that vein. It tells you which way the wind blew, not whether the house will stand. Now imagine a tiny theater of everyday life. 50 seats. A slightly judgmental fern in the corner. And 10 short plays titled Canceled Plans in C minor. The warm Come Cold Tango, and Promises, the sequel that never arrived. Each play has its costume changes, laughs, silences, apologies, and all of them are staged by the same unpredictable actor. Fickle, who wears many masks and keeps the audience guessing. Sometimes Fickle bows graciously. Sometimes Fickle wanders off between acts and leaves you with the bill. But let's unbutton this little more gently. Think of Fickle as weather rather than character. Sun, clouds, wind, surprise hail. You can notice the forecast without believing you can plant an orchard in a 1 hour drizzle. You can build gutters, plant hardy shrubs, and keep an umbrella handy. That's practical sense with a touch of dignity. And yes, a little stubborn optimism. For each of the 10 patterns we'll meet tonight,
The speed limit is 70 miles per hour.
I'll offer 3 things you can carry. A sensory image. So when the scene appears, you'll recognize it without needing an instruction inaugural or manual. A small metaphorical tool. A stone, a jar, a lamp. Something you can imagine in your pocket. And one clear, gently humorous sentence you can say or think that doesn't require a lecture. Only clarity. Think of these as emotional camping gear. Compact, useful, and occasionally decorative. A few synonyms to tuck into your back pocket. Capricious. A friend with a violin who plays only when bored. Mercurial. A quicksilver temperament. Beautiful and dangerous. Inconsistent. The reliable flake. And flighty. The kite that never learns to land. Etymology reminds us the word has been around to name mischief for centuries. People have always needed a name for the one who changes the channel mid-plot. A short meditative image to carry for you now is a small ridge path in the foothills. Sage and sun, where the Weathervane sits on a fence post. You walk the path with a small satchel containing 10 tiny objects, each one ready for an encounter. You don't need to chase the vein. You only need to notice which way it points. Pick the right object and continue. Sometimes you pick a stone and keep walking. Sometimes you pick a lamp and call a meeting. Sometimes you simply sit still. The vein tires of its theatrics. Humor is our friend here. If human beings were predictable, we'd be less interesting. And far worse at parties. But predictability matters.
The speed limit is 55 miles per hour.
When you're making shared plans. building trust, or choosing who to leave the last slice of pie to. Lemon meringue pie. So tonight we'll laugh at the vein, not at the person. Laugh to lighten the weight of confusion. Then do the sensible thing. Set a small boundary. Ask a simple question. Or bake your own pie. If you like, we'll begin with a brief, playful meditation. Breathe. Notice a vein turning in the breeze. And place the first object in your satchel, a smooth stone called choice. Keep it. And later, when plans wobble, you'll know which hand it belongs in. Now, as you sit comfortably, close your eyes, if that feels safe. Take 3 slow breaths. Inhale for a bit. Inhale for 4. Hold 1. Exhale for 6. Letting the body settle like a rock, settling into soft soil. Imagine that satchel at your side on that ridge path. Reach in it and lift the smooth stone called choice. Notice its weight. Pleasant. Neither heavy nor light. Its temperature. The tiny ridges along one edge. Now, turn it in your palm. It smells faintly of river water and sun-warmed granite. Hear a distant jay call. Feel the ridge wind on your cheek. And let the stone anchor you. With the stone in your hand, remember one recent small disappointment. A last-minute cancellation. A baffling text. A warmth that cooled. See it as a scene on the path ahead. Actors, weather, a single lamp flickering. You do not have to step into every scene. Feel how the stone steadies your breath. Say to yourself softly, choice. Let the syllable be a small bell in your chest. Now, imagine the stone has a smooth inner groove that contains 3 tiny inscriptions, each a practical thing you can do when fickleness appears. Press your thumb into the first groove and feel the word name. This is a simple name. It's very simple. Name what happened without drama. Plans changed. The skin at your thumb relaxes. Press the second groove. Decide. Feel the ridge under your thumb. Make one small decision that preserves your time and dignity.
Roadwork reported ahead on I-10, west in half a mile. You're still on the fastest route.
Reschedule. Keep yourself a plan. Or enjoy the freedom. Notice how your shoulders respond. Perhaps they drop an inch. Press the third groove. Protect. This is gentle boundary. A short sentence you can use later.
Stay in the left 2 lanes.
That is both kind and clear. I'll hold this time unless I hear otherwise by X. Feel the groove's coolness and imagine slipping the
speed limit is
stone
55 miles per hour.
into your pocket. Breathe in. Breathe out. Now, picture yourself. Picture yourself walking the path holding the satchel. The weathervane turning
The speed
above,
limit is 55 miles per hour.
but not tilting your spine. You carry the choice stone, small and solid, reminding you that while others rotate like the vane, you have a hand on the wheel of your own day. Bring now a small, slightly amused smile to your face. Think of the vein as a theatrical fox in a raincoat. And let that lightness sit at the corner of your mouth. Humor does not make the wound smaller. It makes your muscles less tense for the work of repair. When you're ready, take one more steadying breath. Feel the stone in your pocket. You can even wiggle your fingers and toes, letting your eyes close even more firmly and deeply. Keep this choice stone image with you. Name, decide, protect. 3 tiny acts you can do before the weather decides for you. Thank you for listening. In upcoming episodes, I'll go over each of the different fickle situations that I've been told people have encountered, or that you may have encountered yourself, such as partner cancels plans last minute after seeming enthusiastic, or fickle situation 2, partner alternates warm, affectionate periods with distant, cold behavior. Or fickle situation number 3, partner frequently changes relationship expectations, talks about commitment, then withdraws. Or perhaps partner flirts or seeks attention from others intermittently, then acts remorseful. Or perhaps fickle situation, partner makes promises, financial, household, time, but repeatedly fails to follow through. Or perhaps fickle situation, partner sends mixed signals about intimacy, initiates sometimes, avoids other times. And then there's partner social media behavior, suggests interest in others while verbally affirming the relationship. All of these we will cover one by one in the following episodes. Thank you for listening. Let's continue. See you in the next episode.